What's poppin', y'all? I guess you gotta stamp your L before anyone can come get in front of you and expose you for it, because Adam22 was shameless with how he grilled himself over him failing to sell more than 30 tickets for the No Jumper live show that was supposed to happen in Los Angeles. Yes, that is correct. 30 tickets. So the first thing was that the people that were originally supposed to be at this live show were the following: Munchie B, Aunt Hefe, and this guy Spody Face. And they were going to have Doughboy do some sort of comedy or something like that. That guy, frankly, I don't find that guy quite entertaining at all. And Adam22, of course. Now, Munchie B, he left because he left No Jumper. Spody Face, he also left No Jumper after J Hood, one of Whack 100's, you could say he's like family members. He's like nephew to him. Like he took care of him. That guy got out of jail. They were about to run the fade. Like that guy and Spody Face got into it mid podcast. So that guy quit. Munchie B quit because he's like this Inglewood family, I think blood or something like that. And he felt like he was being put into police games that were going to tarnish his reputation. He brought a blicky to the venue, which is not the venue of the show. But he brought a blicky to the No Jumper office. Someone accidentally recorded it while doing like a promo video. And that was, I wouldn't say the straw that broke the camel's back, but he realized a lot of police games were happening. Or he felt that that's what he felt like was going on. And Aunt Hefe is currently booked on a murder charge. And Aunt Hefe preceded Munchie B and Spody Face. And all of these guys are gang members. So that whole lineup is gone. And then he started to try to fill it in with these other guys. I think these guys are already smaller than the original live show. And Adam22 would give a little bit of an explanation.
We had sold, I believe, like 30 tickets. Okay. So we do a couple of different reels.
Not quite Drake numbers.
We go out of our way to promote it on the podcast repeatedly. We're hoping that we can see a little bit of motion. It's really not moving too much. I announce that 607 Unk is going to be the headline, or is going to be the opener along with King Yella. Still doesn't really change things. The numbers are looking not great in terms of ticket sales. We announce that Hater World is also going to be added to opening up the podcast. At the same time, we announce that me and 4 Extra are going to be doing our first podcast back together.
Oh, that's all.
On the live show.
That's dope.
We announced at one point that we're going to be giving away a free 1/8 of weed to everybody who goes to the live podcast. Really, none of this really moved the needle in any meaningful way. Like, and actually this morning I hit up Josh for the count. Where are we at? I think he said we're somewhere around like 45, and that basically the promoter didn't want to, or basically felt like we hadn't sold enough tickets to continue on with this. Now, there was part of me that was like, maybe today we talk about it on this podcast, and maybe that is enough to, get people in motion and like people buy more tickets or whatever. Because, you are going to sell like a bunch of tickets at the end, like in the last week or the last like 3-4 days,
Like 70%.
You could sell a lot of tickets in that end period right there. But after having added 2 other pretty popular podcasts to it, as well as adding 4 Extra, who himself is very famous and granted, like, collabed on the post, was promoting it on his story, etc. Given that we did all of that, and people still just weren't buying tickets, I'm forced to just be like, okay, apparently this was not meant to be.
So this is a good explanation as to why those guys being gone is, because that's something the haters of No Jumper would say is like, yo, these guys are gone. Of course, nobody's going to buy tickets. But he's like, yo, the reason why I even did this promo video was because the tickets weren't already selling when these guys were on the bill. Now, when he starts talking about, oh, I added this person and this person and this person, I don't think that was going to move the needle at all. However, the fact that 4 Extra was going to have his first link up with Adam22 again live, I would think that's a moment that is like, that is the biggest moment. That's the thing that drew me. And I was like, whoa, okay. So they're still going to do content together. But the fact that that was going to happen, I'm like, yeah, if that didn't move tickets, I don't know what would have moved tickets, because No Jumper in the past, and people will use this to clown them, but I do think it is a little bit. We have to look at the old shows. So the old shows and the old cast. This was a different brand of No Jumper. This was a little bit, I would say this was No Jumper 2.0, which is when they first did their shows, the Novo in downtown LA, that was on November 18th, 2022. So the Novo holds 2,300 people. So 2,300 people, that's a lot of people, and I think they packed out the show. However, when you look at the cast, and the cast of that, you had Duno, right? So Duno has a completely different audience from No Jumper. Like, there's slight overlap, but especially at this period of time, he has the Latino audience. You know, that he has that whole segment of Mexicans as well in LA, which is a huge audience, and he brings his own personality and everything. They had AD. AD was a big figure. AD was like the first gang related connection, you could say, but AD wasn't trying to be the biggest gangster. He was trying to be an entertainer. Like he had this food show on there that he got into a little bit of a spat with China Mac over. He was very creative. He wanted to have like a movie show. There's a reason why AD is still in this game right now. And he's not struggling, and he's made a good name for himself. And he's a guy that's done things related to entertainment for the better part of 15 years. So you had AD and Duno. Those are already two different audiences, but this isn't strictly music underground rap anymore. And you also have Adam, obviously. And you have T-Rel, who T-Rel worked with Last Kings, which was Tyga's company. So you have industry. And that's also another thing. In the LA music scene, you have people like... I'm in love with the Coco guy. I keep forgetting his name because he only has a couple of songs and he refuses to make any more. But I'm in love with the Coco. And I don't mean this as disrespect. I'm just forgetting. OT Genesis. There you go. It came back to me. So you have people that have roots in music. Like AD was a rapper, and he was tied to a lot of things that happened in the LA music industry, at least like 1 degree of separation away from everybody. Similarly with T-Rel, he was tight with Tyga. So he's also like Hoover affiliated, which is like some other gang. So you have these individuals that are not one-dimensional at all. Like they've got hands in music, hands in some business, some entertainment. They've got a decent head on their shoulders. And then you had Sharp was going crazy at this time, like post-COVID. You had this like pimp guy that came up off of this interview that he did on Soft White Underbelly. And then you have the staple for No Jumper, which is like, this is No Jumper history, and that's House Phone. So House Phone locked in on underground music, but also like streetwear, fashion, things like that. So you had a real deal cast. And I would say that the audience had respect for these guys to some degree. Maybe they thought they were a little bit dumb in one regard, but they were listening to them with not just to laugh, but they were like, yo, I want to see what type of insight this individual has on any given subject. That is not the same as right now. Like the cast that they had, those guys are one-dimensional. Like Munchie B, that guy is entertaining. I will say that. And Hefe, to be honest, I don't even know. I don't even know how to form an opinion. Same thing with that Spody Face guy. Same thing with a lot of these other guys. Other than Lush, that guy's a character for sure. But he was here during this era, I think, or slightly after, before he got fired when everybody left. And with these guys like Munchie B, they're just gang members. Like Munchie B gets drunk and he's funny and he is content, but has he ever had anything going on in music, in the music industry, in any industry at all? No. These guys don't have anything else. So now you've got one-dimensional people. These guys aren't even really tied to music, let's be fair. And nobody is watching the new No Jumpers with like, yo, I really want to learn or have some sort of insight given to me by the people on this cast, other than perhaps Adam. They're like, hey, this is going to be a circus. I can't wait for the next arrest that's going to happen. That's what it looks like. That's one way to look at things. But also, we can even simplify it to the dates that this happened. The first show, the No Jumper Live show, that was in downtown LA, that was in 2022. We were coming off the backs of 2020, 2021. People just locked in, not being able to really see anything. And people had this hunger to see live shows, and they were watching these guys throughout 2020, 2021. That was when the podcast boom happened. That's when No Jumper got the building. That's when everything was changing. So they were like, man, I've been listening and watching these guys for so long. It's time I finally show up and see them in person. And 4 years later, things are a lot different. Now, Adam 22 tries to mention other people like Joe Budden and them not doing shows anymore.
Turns out that the audience is just not really there for the live experience like the way that they were a couple of years back.
Do you feel like ultimately that is a indicative of where No Jumper overall is as a platform, or do you feel like it's just the live shows are not cracking in general for people?
I do feel like live podcasts are not as cracking as they used to be. I do feel like a lot of podcasts like Joe Budden that used to go on tour all the time, that they're just really like not doing it anymore. Definitely like partially you have to kind of attribute it to No Jumper and say, well, you know, like, but like from my perspective, it's like, especially when we announced it, it felt like we had a ton of momentum.
So my thoughts on why Joe Budden isn't going on tour and he used to do these podcast tours is because, frankly, Joe Budden makes significantly more money just doing another show that he can sell on Patreon than he would going out and touring. And this is something that 21 Savage has talked about, which is why he didn't go on tour for so many years during his career. He's like, yo, I've got such a sick deal that I make so much money off of my music. Why would I go on tour? Why would I go and have to move city to city, stay away from my family? Because 21 Savage already has kids, and 21 Savage does seem to like enjoying his time alone, like just playing 2K, maybe hanging out with his girl or girls back during that time period. He's like, why would I go on tour? Because tour is taxing, and there are some people that are live performers and they love performing for an audience, but a lot of rappers are not that. They're just recording solo, dolo. So Joe Budden, if he's like, yo, I don't need to do this thing anymore, he would lose money doing a live show of the podcast, unless they're like recording it live. And yeah, Academics, some guy who's also at the top of the game, he's still doing live shows, but let's just see the numbers that Academics is running. Academics, a live show, the one that happened in Miami, Florida. Do you know how many people went to that? It says here, according to the Eventbrite, it says they've had 224 attendees, but I don't know if that's across all events. And it does say it's across 3 events, but that's probably only people who bought through Eventbrite, and there are probably like Ticketmaster sales as well. But if we just look at the venue where he did the most recent show in Miami, that one was a capacity of 390 people. So let's give him sold out. 390 people, Academics, the biggest guy in the game. That's 10 times what No Jumper did. But even at that rate, Academics would make significantly more in an hour streaming from his own crib. So do you see how it doesn't even really make sense? And I think from Academics' perspective, and this is somebody who's demonstrated he can sell tickets because he's done multiple shows. He wouldn't keep doing shows if he couldn't draw anybody. But this is the top individual in the game. So that's not the same situation as No Jumper, where he's saying like, oh yeah, you know, like these guys, they're not doing, it's not that they're not doing shows because they can't pull a crowd. They're not doing shows because they find it more profitable to do something else, which is just to continue doing what they were already doing. And I think Adam just wanted to see what they could do because he's always trying to do something new. But I think he may weigh views a little bit too much into the overall assumption of people's investment in the content or the willingness to invest in the content.
It's kind of amazing to me that we could have, you know, thousands of people watching the live shows on any given day, that like everywhere I go, I feel like I'm famous as and people are just coming up to me everywhere we go. And that, you know, we on the average No Jumper show or whatever, we might have like 100,000 viewers or whatever. And that still somehow those people did not find it exciting, the idea of going to a live show. And one thing that the promoter told us, the person who was like helping us to manage this and everything, is he said, believe me, you're not alone. I guess like the market for the live podcast experience is really not great, and that they've actually had to cancel a lot of these. So I guess that made me feel a little bit of like, okay, I guess it's like kind of not too out of the ordinary at this point.
See, this is the thing. Like, and I do think Adam 22 cares a lot about numbers, because one of the things that he's very adamant against is botting and people faking views. And he's been very public about this. And he just says he would never fake views. But and he's done a lot of things in the name of views. But views are just people that are willing to watch, and people are willing to watch a train wreck, they're willing to watch a circus, they're willing to watch a lot of other things. And if they can get it for free, then they're not going to pay for it. Or if they can get it from the comfort of their own home, because if you think about a No Jumper live show, there is a high likelihood, well, we've already seen it happen. We've seen people get into fades. We've seen people we've seen someone go in, and now granted, this was like the prime of No Jumper, and this wasn't what they were about back then, but we saw somebody pull out a blicky and point it directly at Adam 22 in the past. And he didn't know it was a fake one. We didn't know it was a fake one, but that's a crazy moment. We saw a Fousey Tube like completely lose his mind. We saw Famous Dex passing out. In a live show, you would hope that there's going to be, those things are less likely to happen. And you don't want them to happen at a live show. You don't want Whack 100 to potentially pull up with a bunch of people at a live show, because you're at the live show. You care about your own safety. So you're like, yo, if I want to see a crash out, or I'm anticipating a crash out on No Jumper, which is a lot of the peak content since, I would say, maybe the Kelpie situation with Almighty Suspect, you want to be in the comfort of your own home watching it in complete safety, and you get to enjoy it there, as opposed to pulling up and putting yourself at risk. And this is also another thing with the difference between the shows back then in 2022 and the shows now, is now you know you're pulling up to Gangland. You know at that venue there will be guns inside. Like, we don't care what they say about security. This is LA. The people that are in the gangs are running the security anyway. So you know there's going to be weapons inside there. You know there's going to be gang members inside there. And if you are a viewer of No Jumper, you're probably a person that just likes to watch from afar. And I think I fit this bill very well, because I like No Jumper for the insightful stuff, especially when he interviews. And it's unfortunate because those good interviews do the least views now. So now if you're an Adam 22 and you care about views, you're maximizing on the views. But there are people that get less views that can pull more than 30 tickets. And this is the thing, 30 tickets in LA, which is the home and capital of the show, with one of the biggest brands and the biggest faces in media, that is abysmal. It is very bad. Like, it should be if it was 250, I would say, okay, that's an okay draw. But 30 is scary. But this is the thing, when he talks about, like, oh, you know, people are coming up to me all the time saying, I love your stuff. Yeah, they're saying, like, I enjoy and I get a laugh and a rise and maybe some entertainment out of it. It's like Adrian Broner and Dean the Great. What could Adrian Broner and Dean the Great possibly do that would make you want to go live and see them? But there's got to be, Adrian Broner would maybe have to be doing a fight. But even then, a lot of people are like, you know, I'll just watch the fight from home. So music artists, performers are really the only people that I see pulling really strong crowds, or just make it a big old meet and greet. That's the only thing. Because when it's this hazy area of, we're going to give you the same content that you can get with less safety at home than you can get at home, you start to think, well, why would I go there? It's like, for example, Vlad and No Jumper, now they have, like, they'll release podcasts early, or they'll release the clips and the full interviews early. I'll pay for that, especially if I want to see one. Yeah, I'll pay for it early, because that's worth it to me, to be able to see something that is relevant right now ahead of time. It's different content, like the content would eventually come out, but to see a live show, you know the live show is probably going to be recorded. You're going to get the information about what happened anyway later on. It just makes the whole thing very difficult. Now, if they were throwing shows with rappers back in the day, which they were kind of going on these joint tours like they did with a Lil Pump, that's different. But yeah, like the live shows, we're really only seeing artists do those. And going to have the musical experience is and was never meant to be a solo one, because, like I've said in the past, but you know, there's new people in every video. Music instruments, how were you going to listen to music if you weren't with a performer? That's the only way. So music was always this communal performance in-person thing. And that's why I think that continues. But like a podcast, for example, that medium was digital first. Unless you want to go down the whole rabbit hole of like, well, no, there were open forums and debates and things like that. And yeah, we could try to stay in the technicalities of it. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've got to say on that situation. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all in the next one.